Chapter 6 is the first of the 2 chapters that I've included in part 3 of my book. It's a part that I've called New Directions in Audiovisual Translation Research. Specifically, Chapter 6 is about multimodality. Multimodality, as most readers will know, is one of the fastest growing and most influential theoretical frameworks in any discipline, in any field that looks at the coordination of language and other forms of nonverbal semiotics. Multimodality is important in the context of audiovisual translation research, obviously, because adopting a multimodal approach means that the researcher is not prioritizing language at the expense of other meaning-making resources. So, it's a way of looking at what happens when we mediate language, but also other types of semiotics, and the importance that the relationship between the different types of semiotic resources has on the overall outcome of the mediation process. I think that it's fair to say that multimodality can be a complex theoretical framework depending on the background of whoever tries to get to know more about this theoretical framework. That has to do partly with the fact that it was, to some extent, developed in the tradition of Hallidayan linguistics, which can be a bit opaque, as I say, to certain readers depending on what their background is. So this chapter provides a very detailed critique and overview of the apparatus of multimodality. It begins by providing definitions, basic definitions of what we mean by multimodal, by multimedial. Is any multimedial text also multimodal? Is it not? And so on. So there are many examples of this. It goes on to show how, even if we've never thought formally about multimodality in those terms, we pay attention to multimodality unconsciously. So this all has to do with the way in which we process texts through which, in which meaning is being communicated through different modes simultaneously. And then I begin a very detailed examination of the core notions in this chapter, which are mode, core mode, submode, and medial variants. And specifically, I place particular emphasis on the mechanisms and the principles that govern the integration of individual modes into those semiotic ensembles that we call audiovisual texts. The chapter finishes by providing an overview of research methods that are particularly relevant in the context of multimodal research, and therefore that facilitate the application of multimodal approaches to the study of audiovisual translation. And these research methods include things like, for example, multimodal transcriptions or multimodal corpora, to give but a couple of examples. I have provided multiple examples through the chapter of the ways in which a multimodal approach can be beneficial to a better understanding of the source text and the translation of that audiovisual text into the target language. I have drawn on different genres. I have looked at practically every mode. So I discuss issues of perspective, the use of lighting, the use of music, the use of voice, the use of color. So I very much hope that this relatively long chapter within the book will prove useful for anybody who's willing to engage with multimodality as a way forward in developing their studies of audiovisual translation.